Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're all staying safe. And really lovely to have you all here. So my name is Esosa, and welcome to the Emotionally Intelligent Job Seeker live session. It's going to be very exciting. So if you've not heard about Jobberman before, let me give you a breakdown. So Jobberman is Nigeria's #1 online recruitment platform with over 2 million candidates on our job platform and 60,000 plus employers. And our goal is to create job opportunities for people. Our goal basically is to connect opportunity to talent and talent to opportunity. It sounds exciting, doesn't it? And the Jobberman Youth Engagement is committed to upskilling 5 million young people and placing 3 million of them in dignified work within the next 5 years. Now, we provide free soft skills training. Most of you here might know about it, or you probably never heard about it, but this is a training that is really going to help you and move you forward in your career, your business, even though you have a job, even though you're looking for a job. If you're looking for a job, it's even better because it's going to allow you stand a chance to get a job. It's going to put you in a better position and it's going to get employers attracted to you. That's what this live session is about too. So this training is for young people within the ages of 18 to 35 through digital channels and it's an offline event. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So sign up for our free soft skills training. I know some of my colleagues will be in the comment section. They will drop the link. It's completely and totally free. So this live session is brought to you in partnership with JCI, right? So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about emotionally intelligent job seeker. Now, a lot of us might not know what emotional intelligence is, but our guest speaker is going to give you more insights into that. Now, who is our guest speaker? Our guest speaker So our guest speaker began his career as a GCI member. He was in the Lagos State Polytechnic Junior Chamber. He formed the GCI First Stack and he was a Charter Executive Vice President. He served as a GCI Vice President for Africa and the Middle East and is currently a member of the GCI Strategic Plan Committee. And he is no other than Balogun Adeniyi Rashid. So he's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Okay, hey, hi. I can't really hear. I was in my network. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Hi, good afternoon. Lovely to see you here.
Same here.
I'm good. How are you, yourself? Okay, great.
Well, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an exciting session, so I've heard, and you're already logged on. And we're looking forward to you sharing your knowledge on emotionally intelligent job seeker. So I am going to allow you to take the stage. We are going to be having a question and answer session immediately after this session is done. We're going to be having, so you guys should keep your questions, make sure you listen, grab your biro, your pen, your snacks, pen, exciting one, so you can take the center stage.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's, it's just a rare privilege that I have the opportunity to be here today speaking with, everyone on the emotionally intelligent job seeker. I might not be the best person to talk about this, but, I needed to be assured that I'll be talking from experience and as much as possible, we'll be able to share insights, with ourselves as to, what does it take for you to be emotionally intelligent and how do you position yourself as a job seeker in that journey, to being the best of yourself, getting or landing that job that excites you and building a career as it were. As we go on, I would like to talk a little brief about why we are here. We've had all the old interpretation as to why this topic today, but looking at the collaboration between Jobberman Nigeria and Junior Chamber International Nigeria. I would say we are two organizations operating at two different points, but our missions kind of meet. So if you look at Jobberman in everything they are trying to do basically is to build careers, whether it's the platforms where they get to train you, or whether it's putting up job ads or running interviews. They just want to build careers. And if you now take Junior Chamber International on the other end, JCI is an organization set out to provide development opportunities that empower young people to create positive change. So you would see the marriage of our missions, and that's why, the opportunity today to speak with young people becomes a lot more exciting, and as to how can we be more aware of ourselves. And, the topic is better from a young person to a young person, letting you know what I've gone through in my own journey, and how do you also not make certain mistakes, and how do you be a better person in that journey going forward. So in talking about my journey, I'll be able to take you through, this slide I'll tell you explains everything about me. I was going through this morning. I said my life just seems to be a mix of colors, black, white, and blue. So if I take my family, my wife and my two kids, on one side, and I, bring on another side this slide, this would practically tell you what I've done in a good of about 20 years of my life. I started my career with Guinness in 2004. I worked through customer service, worked through distribution. Then I later got into sales. That got me traveling the country, working from Benue to Cross River to Enugu. Then after 8 years with Guinness, I moved on to join MultiChoice, in the roles around regional sales. That was in the eastern part of the country, and later Lagos, the big market, and moving on later to become national sales manager for corporate and commercial. I left DSTV, after 7 years of my sojourn. That got me into 2019. But why you see the JCI logo there, JCI is not a paid organization. So I've been in JCI, but it's not like I get salaries or I get paid for what I do with JCI. It's a leadership organization. So why I've put it there is just to let you know that JCI is the organization that I've built every of those aptitudes that I've been able to take into my job, either with Guinness or with MultiChoice, or into what I do now. So JCI had given me that platform, and I've also had the opportunity to lead projects in JCI, and to also, lead other youths across the continent of Africa and the Middle East. So this summarizes what I've done, for myself. And jumping into the topic for today, it's two pieces in one. So we're talking about how do you get into that job interview. Then there's another piece of it that is trying to say, you get into that interview, or you being that job seeker, how do you, position in a way that you're emotionally intelligent, and that way you can land that job. And the key thing, for us to understand is the job will always be there, and you will always be there. So these are two different positions, but how do you fit into that job, or how do you get into that organization and you're the right person for the job, or you get into that last stage of the interview? And after going through your session with the panel, you will leave that interview with the mind that I know I aced the interview and I know I got the job. And that is where emotional intelligence comes to play. So what you would understand that going forward or moving on, organizations globally, whether for profit organization or non-profit, organizations have their culture. It's just like where you come from. I'm from Ogun State. We have our culture, we have our norms. So for every organization, whether paid or not-for-profits, they have their own culture. And the whole idea of emotional intelligence is for the panel or whoever is interviewing you for that job, or for you as a job seeker to understand, is the culture of the organization is very important to them. That is what forms who they are. That is what forms what they stand for, their values, their goals, their aspirations, the people there. So the culture is a big thing for them. And every opportunity you have to be interviewed for a role in an organization, the organization wants to be sure that you can be a great part of the organization. And for them to know that you'll be a great part of the organization, you need to watch out that in the interview, you might not get direct questions targeting or trying to understand your level of emotional intelligence. This is a silent part of the interview. You will not be told that, okay, today we're going to interview you and try to understand your emotional intelligence. Not at all. But ranging from questions around your past job, your current life, and what are the things that you do. The entire questions around trying to understand your EI comes into play. So the key thing for you to take out is the organization needs to know or wants to know how you can be a great part of their organizational culture. And that can only be understood from your level of emotional intelligence. So that EI is big deal now. It's the only thing that gets to, outside of your technical skills, outside of what you know, your emotional intelligence is what would, take you into the organization, ahead in your career, and all around it. So how do we then explain what emotional intelligence is? How do we define emotional intelligence? I'm sure a lot of us have heard a lot about emotional intelligence. I bet you, if you try to look up the internet, if you try to talk to different people, you would hear a whole lot about what emotional intelligence is and what it's not, and what you should be doing about it and not. So for me today, I have tried to tell myself, you know what, I will not come here trying to put up one definition for emotional intelligence, because it's a very, very delicate piece that you cannot, just try to run a definition and thinking that that definition will be able to explain everything about emotional intelligence. So for the purpose of today, I would rather want to leave emotional intelligence on these 5 elements, empathy, social skill, self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. So for you to get to that level where your emotional intelligence, is on its high, or for you to be able to be out there as an individual that has got, that full understanding of what emotional intelligence is, you must then understand that you need to go on that journey where you need to understand, empathy, social skills, self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. So your emotional intelligence journey must start with this 5 P's around it. And starting with self-awareness, as you see, it's been, the center of everything. For self-awareness, and I used to tell, members that I speak with. I had a session some weeks back with some young people from tertiary institutions across the southwest of Nigeria, and we had sessions around leadership. But starting off that session, I had to go through a session around leading self. And the understanding is that for you to be able to lead others, you must lead yourself. So in leading others, you lead yourself. In understanding emotional intelligence, in understanding how you're able to manage your relationship with other people through emotional intelligence, you must start with self-awareness. You must be able to recognize your own moods, your own emotions, what drives you. If you're able to understand your moods and emotion, you then are able to understand how does this have that effect on other people. So if I see you as somebody, if you feel you have issues around self-confidence, for example, and you get into that interview, you know, the panelists, the group of people you'll be meeting on that panel already have gone through this interview process again and again, and they can easily sit and, you know, analyze your body language and see if you're a confident person or not. And you would quickly understand that if I am not a self-confident person and I go into an interview, that will affect my delivery. That will affect, you know, the reaction I get back from the panel. That would affect how I respond to the question. So self-awareness is key. It's not something that you can sit up one day and say, okay, fine, today I'm just going to go into self-awareness. I'm going to try and understand myself. No, it's a journey. It's not a box that you tick. So you will continue to look for yourself. You will continue to, you know, master your own personal understanding in that journey for self-awareness. And then we move on to self-regulation. In self-regulation, it's about knowing this is who I am. This is how my mood is. This is how my emotions, or these are the things that drive me. Then in self-regulation, how am I able to control or redirect these impulses, or how am I able to use these moods in a way that, you know, I am not getting it in the way of the other person? How do I regulate when I know I'm going too high or too low? Or how do I make sure that I put up that level or amount of integrity that gets people to see that, oh, okay, I am this kind of person. So, and I always get to tell people, when you talk about integrity, for example, generally, most times when you talk about integrity, you think you're talking about money. How do I keep money? How do I not take out of somebody's money, or how do I just, you know, do all of that? But I tell you, over time, in the course of working with Guinness, working with MultiChoice, I have come to understand that integrity goes as far as, if you set up a meeting with a client, if you set up a meeting with a customer for 1 p.m., integrity is you being there at 1 p.m. Integrity is as simple as you being there at 1 p.m. But if you can't even make it at 1 p.m., integrity is also you in 30 minutes before that time, or 1 hour before that time, calling to say, I will be late for this meeting, or this will not happen again as we've scheduled. You must be, for self-regulation, you must be at the stage where you're open to change. You're open to understand that, you know, this is who I am and this is how it's going to affect the other person. So how do I self-regulate, or how do I make sure I am easy on my judgments about things that affect me and, you know, the next person? And organizations want to be able to see that when you are that ideal fit, you will then be that person that is not quick to make judgments, you know, across your team members or across clients, you know, and not then open up the organization to some sort of heat and all of that. The next here is motivation. And, you know, most times it's easy for all of us to go into interviews and say, I am passionate about this, I am passionate about this, I can do this, I can do that. But it's something you need to, you know, work on over and over again. What motivates you? What's that passion that you have, or what is the drive for you to achieve certain things? So whether you're put on a job to drive sales target, or whether your job is just to engage customers and resolve their issues, you know, it goes beyond, you know, trying to just read a script. From my personal experience, I've had, you know, okay, so let me say, for example, a personal life experience. Now, I currently reside in Accra, and I tried to buy power from electric company of Ghana, ECG, and I did that, over my phone, but it wasn't going through. Then I called the customer care, and I said, I've paid and power is not coming through. And we couldn't resolve me getting power restored. And I was going to be moved on to another level of the call with somebody else to resolve. And after that conversation, the customer service person at the other end then goes on to ask me a question to say, is there anything you would like for me to help you with today? And I had to respond to say that you shouldn't just continue to read a script because a script has been handed over to you, or your job says you must do A, B, C. You must soak yourself in the job. You must be passionate about what you're doing, and you must always, go with the flow of the job. If I have called you as a customer and you've not been able to solve one problem, so why are you asking me if I have another problem for you to solve? So motivation gets you to that level where your drive for what you're doing or your drive for what you want to get on must be, at the very, very high. Your commitment should not be a question, whether you have gotten the job or not. And I tell you, in trying to understand the context of motivation in the interview, or how the panel is able to understand your level of emotional intelligence coming from a motivation level. A typical example is when you go into that interview and you're asking questions that has to do with their products. You're asking questions that has to do with their customers. That's to show that you're already committed to that brand. You're already committed or connected to that organization. You know the organization. So that explains to the panel that, oh, okay, this person is at this level of emotional intelligence. This person will be soaked in the job. This person will be able to drive and own the entire process. The next is empathy. And for empathy for me personally is a big deal. And why I say it's a big deal is, how are you also able to build that relationship where you're in the heart of your customers, you're in the heart of your clients, or you're in the heart of other functions that you service. So for most of us as job seekers, you might not be customer facing. Sometimes your customers are internal. Sometimes your customers are other departments in the organizations. So how are you able to make sure that you have that skill that is able to allow you, be in their position to understand when they say, I need to report by this time? How do you understand truly that it's important that that report gets in at that time? Because in that person's shoe, they need to continue to do X, Y, Z with the report that they expect. So all of these, you should be able to reflect when you're going into that interview, because the panel is looking for more of what you have as an emotionally intelligent person, or your level of emotional intelligence, than what you have in your skills. What you have in your skills, you end up showing on the job. But they want to be able to know that right here and now, you will be able to, demonstrate that I have this in me. I have been able to do it over time. And some of us will ask to say, what if I have not been in any job? What if I don't have the job experience? Because that's a typical problem in Nigeria right now. You're just out of school, fresh, maybe 1 year or two out of school, and there's this job you'd like to apply for, and the next thing is you see part of the requirement as 5 years experience and all of that, and you're like, I fit every other thing on this profile, but 5 years experience, how do you expect me to get it? And the big thing for you now is, how do you then continue to master emotional intelligence and relate all of these elements of emotional intelligence without you having gone through any job experience before? So that way, you should be able to understand that you can drag out of your personal life, you can drag out of your association with other people, you can drag out of small projects you have done, whether in school, in your department, or whether at home, organizing that birthday party, organizing that surprise proposal, between your friends. You can take elements out of, you can take examples out of all of those life events to be able to then sell yourself to that panel or to anyone. So you will not be able to get all your examples alone from having worked, but you can from personal life. Lastly, on trying to explain emotional intelligence is social skill. I said empathy is very, very key to me. I would also then say social skill is fun for me. How do you continue to build on your network? How do you make sure that you are able to reach out to people, you're able to keep relationship? I'll give a personal, experience. In my early career years, I had attended an interview once at Philips Consulting. So I went for this interview at Philips Consulting. I think the office at is it Marina, UBA House. Yeah, so I went for this interview. To me, I think I did well at that interview, to be honest. But I did not get the job. And over time, with the number of interviews I'd attended, I've mastered that bit of when I have to just make sure I ask a question, and make sure I engage the panel. So having done all of that, it got me to that level where I was interacting with, the senior person on that panel. But the mistake I think I made was not to have, continued that relationship with that senior person in the panel. Because fast forward to about 2-3 years, I still wanted to do a career move, and I saw a particular job in another organization that I really wanted to put in for. And guess what? The HR head, the person recruiting in that organization, is the same lead person at the panel I was at Philips Consulting. But because I did not continue after that interview to, build and, consolidate my relationship outside of seeking for the job, I couldn't go ahead to try to get him to, at least get me in for an interview. So I quickly learned my lesson at that point to say, what, whether I get the job or not, for me to come this far to have this engagement, it's important that I build this relationship. So social skill gets you to that level where you should be able to take your relationship with people outside of work, outside of every other formal setup, I would say. But how do you get to know them better? How do you build it a lot stronger? And in here, some of us could start talking about mentorship. I'm careful about that word because for me personally, I feel it's somewhat been abused of late. Sometimes you go into a mentorship relationship and you're not able to understand when is the best time to engage my mentor, or how do I make sure we have this relationship structured, or how do I also do my own bit of it to make sure it's a worthwhile journey. So in trying to build your network, in trying to develop the social skill element of of emotional intelligence, you must try your best to also structure the relationship. What exactly do you want to get out of that relationship? You must find a way to get it clear. And that also goes in a way to say, how do I know this person, or how do I also know more? So in trying to summarize all of these to explain what emotional intelligence is, whether it's empathy, social skill, self-awareness, self-regulation, or motivation, we need to understand that, for every organization, and you as a job seeker or an employee, what they want to see is this candidate coachable? Can we train this candidate? Emotional intelligence helps the organization to know, can we train this candidate? Can we coach him? Is this person open to change? Would this person be able to adapt if tomorrow, we have to change job? Maybe you have to, you're going through changing from one role to the other. So emotional intelligence of employees is directly related to their coachability and often willingness to adapt and be open-minded to feedback and change. So you mustn't, as a job seeker, be stuck to a particular way of doing things. A lot of us, find that difficult sometimes. But in that journey of emotional intelligence, you must be open to change. You must be bendable. Let me use that word. You must be able to adapt to whatever is new. So take for example, you're used to your 8 to 5. You dress up, you go to the office, you sit in, you clock, do your job and all of that. Boom. COVID-19 sets in. Now you have to work from home. So how do you manage that? How are you quick, to get into that space where you're still at your very high, you're still living at your very high, in that job? That is what an employee wants to see in you. They want to see, is this person open to change? Is this person able to, adapt to changing situations as quick as possible? And for me, mastering all these elements helps you on that journey. You won't get there, once, and that's why I use the word journey. It's a journey. Emotional intelligence for you as an individual is a journey. So whether this is going to apply to you trying to get a job, or whether it's going to apply to you doing something else with your life, whether it's your own business, or whether it's even at home, or whether it's even with your peers or anywhere, you must take time to continue to master this element for you to be better. So in coming to sit into our topic today, so I'm going to take us mainly as, let's say, job seekers. So now we are in the interview. Interview is in progress. You've done everything you need to do. You've been shortlisted. Now interview is in progress. You're being interviewed for this job, and every other thing you've worked on. And before I go on, I'd like to also mention that for me as a person, I've had the opportunity to be in that panel where I'm interviewing people. In my years in Guinness, I haven't moved to a mid-level manager where I also had people I managed. I've been able to sit into interviews, recruiting for retail development managers, recruiting business development managers. And I tell you, the time I have to go through your CV also helps me to understand who you are. I'm my own kind of person. I would look as to the arrangement of every aspect of your CV. I'll look at the kind of font you've used. I'll look at the colors. I'll look at everything. That for me gets me prepared. That for me gets me ready to meet you. And in you trying to master emotional intelligence, you need to understand that it is not until you get into that interview room that you play out all of these elements. All the elements we've talked about before, you don't play it out when you get into the interview session alone. You need to play it out from the moment you've seen that job, or from the moment you want to engage someone for anything. You start mastering, or you start putting to work all the elements. And part of what you're doing is to make sure my CV is well put together. My CV fits into the role. My CV answers the questions put out in the job posting. As simple as that is, it's one piece of emotional intelligence, getting your CV ready for it. These days, you get to be told, in some cases, you get to be told who you'll be meeting at your interview. Take your time to just pick that name, go to LinkedIn to understand the profile of that person. For me, in getting my jobs into multi-choice at different times I had to grow in my career, or even while at Guinness Nigeria, I get to know who is going to be at the panel. So for sometimes I take their information, I go online, LinkedIn, I would say, I go to understand what roles at this person, what different job profiles does this person hold? What positions have this person been in? So if I'm being interviewed for a particular role, I want to know if the person on the panel had, gone through that role in the past. That way, most times I am also able to know who is actually the one recruiting. So there's a difference between the HR person that will just do the post to say we are looking for this candidate, and the person that is actually going to have you work in his unit. So I play my part by going to understand that person, what have the person done, what achievements, what other organizations have they worked in, what connections do I have. So that gets me into understanding who the persons that will be meeting at the interview is. And that is a piece of emotional intelligence you have to do before. But right when you now get into your interview, how do you demonstrate emotional intelligence? How it's not just about you saying, I have emotional intelligence. No, nobody's even going to ask you directly. But the questions will come indirect to try to see you demonstrate emotional intelligence, because that is the only thing they want to see to be able to take you in. And I'll call out these seven ways that you have to, as much as possible, demonstrate EQ at the interview. And one is active listening. Every time we get told to ourselves that we've got 2 years and we've got 1 mile, as much as possible, listen more. Listen more and try to talk less. So when questions are pushed to you at interviews, and I want, for some of us that are not job seekers, and maybe we are entrepreneurs or we are into other field of life, these things will relate to us. So it's possible you're trying to pitch for a grant, or you're trying to pitch for a loan, or you're trying to get a partner on board, or you're trying to get something approved by your boss or a friend. All of this would apply. Active listening is, one thing you need to master, that shows that yes, your level of emotional intelligence is high. And especially at your interviews, when you're listening, it's to help you focus on how would you respond, focus on the question being asked rather. Your focus is on the question. That way you will not have to come out as a mortar and brick person. That way it would see that on the spot you're able to internalize the questions. They want to see that this person is able to internalize, this person is able to put a thorough thinking through on the question. And the answer that is coming will then be seen as, yes, it's well thought of, rather than you ask the question and you quickly, boom, you respond to it. So thoroughly listening, then thoroughly providing that response is key. The next is to show emotions. A lot of us, I'm not going to say this does not apply to me. A lot of us get nervous, going into interviews. We're nervous. We try to say, okay, fine, I'll just go in and do my best. But we get in and it's possible getting to see 5 persons interviewing you break down immediately. It happens. And I'll tell you, it's nothing strange. It's okay to be nervous, but as much as possible, you need to be able to use your gestures. You need to be able to use your body in a way that you would be able to relate some sort of confidence. You need to be able to show excitement. You need to be able to smile. Don't fake it. Please make it real. Whether you like it or not, you need to do your best to make it real in wanting to show emotions. The next is share credit for your achievements. So whether you're talking about things you've done in the past with your previous job, make sure you are able to attribute credit to your colleagues. That way, the panel is also able to understand that this is a team player. This person will be able to carry everyone on the team along, and would not be a one-man show and all of that. Then next is share with the panel that you're trying to improve yourself. So that way, be quick to be able to say, this is what I've gone through, and I'm able to try to get better with myself. So a typical example is maybe at a point where you made a wrong call on your job. You should be able to say, okay, fine, admit that you made that wrong call. And in this particular area, you're trying to get better. I've made some wrong calls in my career where on a particular project, I felt trying to engage with a line of customers will give us the result, but we failed at it. But I owned up as the lead to say, yes, we failed at this, and this is what we're doing to recover on that. Next is, you shouldn't shy away from conflicts. Be quick to be able to say, this is not going the way we want it, or these are my strengths, or these areas are not, I'm not so familiar with them. But as much as possible, if there's any conflicting ideas in your team or in the organization, don't shy from talking about them. Don't shy from wanting to, sharpen those areas by facing those conflicts. Your ideas might conflict with somebody else in the unit, and you need to achieve one overall goal. So it's important, you must face that. And how are you able to express this at an interview? It's by you bringing a life case to bear. Find a way at some point to be able to say, this particular issue happened in my project team. We tried to do X, Y. We couldn't achieve it this way, but these were the misunderstandings that came up, and this is how I was able to address it, or this is how we're able to resolve it. So you should be able to find a way to bring those elements that help you demonstrate emotional intelligence. Next is showing that you can learn, and if you've made mistakes, like I mentioned earlier, show that you can pick up, you can fall forward, and you can continue to be better at what you do. Lastly is to ask questions about culture and value of the organization. A lot of us shy away from wanting to ask questions, and I can understand, when you hear, do you have any question for us? That's about the last thing before they say, thank you very much, and it's been nice talking to you, we'll get back to you. For me, over time, I got to really understand that is where I have the chance to, speak about myself a lot more. That is where I have the chance to demonstrate further that I am the right person for that job, because I would have taken time to research about their product or their customers, and I'll be able to ask questions that relate to them. That way, it gets the panel also engaged in the interview, and they are talking to me, trying to explain or give a response to my question. So asking question is key. Do not shy away from it. Be direct about your question, make it simple, but get the panel engaged with you. And I tell, most times when I try to, get people ready or prepared for interviews, I get to explain that for you to ask that question, it helps the panel to start conversations around you from what you've put on the table, other than them going back to some areas of the interview you've not done well. So when you leave with a strong question and they're able to interact and answer that question, it gets them to be able to start off your review from that point, and it becomes a better one for you in the final assessment and all of that. So, if you're able to do this 7, it lands you, at a good spot as a job seeker. But then a lot of question comes in. For me, as a job seeker, is IQ more important than EQ? You know, your intelligent quotient, your emotional quotient. Which of these will get me the job, or which of these is important? You know, over time, you know, research and study keeps saying, you know, emotional intelligence is very key. You know, IQ is about your technical skills. What do you know? Your experience, everything you've learned, you know, you're on the job, and what you're bringing in terms of what you've learned doing, or how you can bring value. EQ comes from the heart, as to how do you relate with people? How do you get people to achieve results? How do you get people connected to the organization? How are you able to show empathy? How are you able to understand what makes people deliver best and deliver great results? So IQ is important, but I'll tell you, EQ is far more important, you know, for you to achieving success. And lastly, before we close, I'd like to say IQ may get you at the door. For most times, most organizations will have to get you to go through a test. And if you see that you don't do well at that test, they don't invite you for any stage of the one-on-one interviews and all of that. So IQ is what gets you to either pass that test and, you know, get them talking to you for the next step. But I tell you, your emotional intelligence will determine how far you go in that organization, or how far you go with your job or with your business, or how you grow in that journey. So EQ is big deal going forward. You know, it's always been, it will forever be. You know, EQ is big deal. Mastering those 5 elements is important in our personal lives, in us seeking our jobs, or in us trying to deal with other people. Thank you very much. I hope I've been able to engage us as much as possible so far. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me now. So I really love that session. That was really amazing. Talking about empathy, social skills, self-awareness, self-regulation. These are things I always tell people they need to do more of, especially as a job, or even as someone that already has a job. You need to cultivate the habits of being emotionally intelligent, because nowadays employers are looking for people that are culture fit, people that fit into the culture of their organization. I think what you explained from your presentation, which was amazing, really gives us insight to why emotional intelligence is important and vital for any career, any field you're in, whether you're an employer, whether you're a job seeker, anything. It is really important. So I have some questions I just want to ask you. This is being emotionally intelligent, being able to balance everything when it comes to social skills, self-awareness, being aware of other people. There has to be sort of a balance. But how can young people, how can job seekers especially deal with disappointment when looking for a job? It's not easy to let down, and it's not easy to stay positive, let me say. So how do you think young people can deal with disappointment as job seekers?
Well, I'm also a young person, you know, and I've had my own share of disappointments. There are times when I felt, you know, in my organization, I needed that next level move, and I never got it. For me, it was, you know, it was disappointing. Or there are times where in 2018, when I was president of JCI, for example, there are several things that I felt I needed to do as the leader of the organization, but I couldn't do them, you know, and it got to me, I felt bad about them. But what I've got to understand over time is that is just life. Those disappointments will come, but you must understand that in falling, you must fall forward. In falling, you must fall forward. There's no way falling back. You must fall forward. And for you, a young person, when disappointment comes, it's for you to be able to, take it and try to understand what's in that disappointment. What can I learn out of that disappointment? How can I be a better person from it? So what is that piece I have not done right now? And as a job seeker or as an entrepreneur trying to get investment into your business, that's why I said your social skill is important. If you're able to make that connection with people, whether it's in the job you're applying for or in other spheres of life, or in those areas where you've had those disappointments, keep that relationship. Go back and ask questions. So if you did not get that job, every organization does it. Don't be scared to call back to say, yes, okay, you've replied that I didn't get the job. I'd like you to please share with me areas I did well, areas I didn't do well. You can ask. You can ask. And sometimes too, when you need to go in for a job interview and it's going to be over the phone. And I tell people, if you feel when the call comes in, you're not in the right space to take the interview, because if you take it, you will end up being disappointed that you didn't do well. Please pick the call and say, I would like to put this interview for another time. You will get the interview. So, young people need to understand that you must start carrying that self-confidence, which is also one part of emotional intelligence, to be able to speak up as things and ask those questions as to why have I failed, so that you can learn from there and fall forward. But just keep falling forward. It's good to fail and it's good to learn from it.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's very insightful. That's very information for job seekers out there. Then, in regards to CV restructuring and being adaptable and flexible during COVID-19, because I know a lot of people, companies, employers, job seekers, they have to be adaptable, because right now we're not sure when life will go back to normal, right? And things are the way they are. Rather than focusing on the problem, we should be focusing on getting the solution, right? So what is your advice right now to, let me say, job seekers, employers, entrepreneurs, on how to adapt and be flexible enough to embrace this period we're in, and not just mope around and be sad that, oh, plans have changed or whatever? What's your advice on that? What's your take?
Okay, so this is one part I'm going to be careful with, because I'm also in this COVID thing, so I'm also trying to survive. Yeah. And myself and my friends, we've had these jokes over and over again that none of us have gone through COVID before, so we can't all come and be advising as to how to navigate, lots of sense talking about how we survive. But I think the key element, and it's been said by Jack Ma, and that is the only thing the only business you have to do this year, whether you own a business, whether you're an employer, employee, job seeker, entrepreneur, is to be alive. Is to be alive. And that, for me, comes back to one simple thing, and that is the fact that we need to take our health serious as young people. So for us younger people, we stand a better chance now to eating healthy, to exercising, to taking time to reflect and all of that. So if we can do all of that, it helps build our immunity against all of these things. These diseases and viruses, they're everywhere. But if you have a strong system, you'll be able to live for tomorrow. It's only people that make organizations. And if you're not healthy, you can't be part of the organization. I learned the hard way. I worked very hard as president of JCI in 2018. I had a full-time job that I was also running at DSTV. In January of 2019, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks because I did not pay attention to myself. Prior to that time, I was doing my full-time job all out, tasking my head to do JCI president work. I ended up in the hospital because I was eating, I wasn't taking enough water. I ended up having stones in my kidney, and I learned the hard way. But thank God I got through that with my family beside me and my wife and all of that. But I learned the hard way. And that's why every opportunity I have, I say, we need to take care of our health. If you're not healthy, you can't even be here logged on to this session today. So we need to stay alive first. And organizations will grow. We'll grow the organizations, we'll grow as individuals. But first thing first is let's stay healthy.
Okay, great. The health for everybody, it's very important to stay healthy this year. No matter the hustle, you cannot hustle if you're in the grave or if you're in the hospital bed. That's just what it is. So I'm just going to take more questions and we'll wrap it up. So as an employer, right, coming from the employer perspective, because I know we're talking about being a job seeker, but at the end of the day, most people were striving to become an employer one day, we're building blocks to become an employer one day. So your advice on how does emotional intelligence really apply to an employer? What steps an employer to also be emotionally intelligent?
Okay, so I'll wear the cap of an employer now. So like I said earlier, I'm currently based in Ghana, and what I do in Ghana is I manage a sales and marketing agency. And at the moment, we're driving route to market for some big organization. And I've had the chance once in my life to be able to say I am responsible for my employees. And I must tell you, in the space of 1 year that I've been doing this, I've had to go through the struggle of some members of the team not, putting in as much as they should put, because I'm coming from a different culture, I'm coming from a different work culture, I'm coming to Ghana, which is a different work environment. I'm trying to adapt. Sometimes my employees say I'm being too pushy. Maybe that's typical of Nigeria. But for me, as an employer and trying to be emotionally intelligent, I'm able to step back and say, okay, fine. How do I play empathy? How do I get into their space? How do I understand this culture more? How do I integrate into this culture? But how do I also make sure I'm able to drive the vision of our business and the clients we work for in a way that we keep getting results, without me having to go through that everyday conflict of you're not doing what you need to do, you're not delivering on the job, and all of that. But if it's possible, I have tried to also manage my expectations and try to understand where is this person. So what I did some weeks back is to run a self-assessment. You tell me where you are. I know where you are. You tell me where you are. And do I need to plug in coaching? Do I need to plug in trainings? Do I need to be on the field with you? Or do I need to understand what excites you more is off the job? How do I connect with you? So there's a big piece around employer connecting with employee, to get them to understand this period, especially with also working from home and trying to deliver big results. And for this period, for example, as an employer, you need to move to that level where you also must understand what are the other things this person needs to achieve. So I have a particular staff member here that has been struggling with his job, and I had to sit him down to say, what exactly is the issue? So he says, oh, his dad is not feeling fine. I said, okay, so what do you need? He says he needs time to spend with his dad. Okay, so what do you want? Okay, I'll give you Tuesdays. Use Tuesdays to see to your dad's health and whatever you need to do. I needed to do that because if I don't get him into that space where he's at peace at home, he won't be able to perform effectively. So we need to find a way to balance. So if your employee is someone that has got kids, or maybe she's pregnant, you need to understand how all of that would play into getting your result. But as much as possible, we need to be patient. Patience is key as well.
Great, great, great. Patience is key. So I think this emotional intelligence applies to everybody. It's not just the job seeker. It applies to everybody because for an organization to grow, for an organization to have staff that have been there for 12 years, 10 years, and it's growing and at the forefront of the industry, you can tell that everybody there is emotionally intelligent. That's why it's important as an employer to know what kind of culture do you want to grow in your organization? What kind of culture are you trying to imbibe? Who are you looking for? That's why when doing interviews, they don't only want to know your technical skills, they also want to know, are you fit for our culture? Does your goal align with the goal of the organization already? Which I think it's very important. So yes, of course, emotional intelligence applies to anybody, whether you're in school, whether you're just starting university, whether you're a job seeker, an employer, any and everybody's. Thank you so much for a wonderful session. That will be my last question. I really learned a lot, and I hope everybody on this live session learned too. Our time is fast spent. We can't take any more questions. But thank you so much, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jobberman, and thanks to JCI, for also bringing this together.
Thank you very much. Okay, so some announcements, guys. So of course, you can sign up on www.jobberman.com for amazing job opportunities. There are a lot of top jobs right now on the Jobberman platform, and feel like everybody's just dulling. You need to go out and get that job, guys. The job is going to into your home. You need to sign up, www.jobberman.com. My colleagues will be in the comment section and they will drop the link there. Sign up on the platform, register, complete your profile, let's be 100%, then start applying for the jobs. There are tons of jobs. There are jobs for anybody in any sector, in any field whatsoever. Then there are also some amazing top opportunities with Putting International. There are about 350 full-time vacancies. Novatia Translation Limited, if you know you can speak different languages, whether it's a foreign language, a Nigerian language, there's so many languages on there. 550 remote work vacancies. Remote work, this is the time for remote work. This is the time that everybody's working from home, as you can see. So go out and get that job. Sign up, www.jobberman.com. There's that. The 7th group, the roles of NYC Corp members posted to Lagos. So if you know you're in Lagos and you're serving, don't say, oh, this is a difficult period, I can't seem to get a job, blah, blah, blah. There's an opportunity there for you on jobberman.com. CT tutors, if you know you're a tutor, you're a teacher, there's an opportunity for you. If you know you are into agriculture, you have a flair for agriculture. Thrive Agri Limited is looking for you. Pocket Farm is also looking for you for our agriculture freaks. And Verify Me Nigeria is looking for 15,000 verification agents all over Nigeria. So, as I said, I checked www.jobberman.com. There are tons of opportunities on there that's just waiting for you to come and grab onto. So for employee spotlights, we plan to have some of our employees join us live in our forthcoming webinars in the coming weeks. So it's going to be an exciting time. We don't want anybody to be bored or anybody to feel like, oh, we're not carrying you along. So we want you to learn something every single day. Try and learn one piece of information. As we say, get 1% better every single day. So sign up to get notified. Sign up on www.jobberman.com/youth-engagement. So my colleagues are in the comment section. They will drop the link. This is very important. So join our events. We have loads of insightful events coming up. Even this week, we're having an event later this week. So you can follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter to get notifications of our events. Jobberman Nigeria on Instagram, jobberman.com on Twitter. And for employers out there, if you know you're looking for someone, you're looking for that right talent, Jobberman is the perfect platform to connect your opportunity to talent. So we have free job listings for the next 3 months. Free job listings, totally, absolutely free. Exciting, I know. So you can also talk to us, reach us on www.jobberman.com/youth-engagement. You can email us at connect@jobberman.com. You can get us on LinkedIn at Jobberman Youth Engagement. As I said, Twitter, jobberman.com, Instagram, Jobberman Nigeria, and Facebook, you're already here. So if you have any questions, you can drop it in the comment section and my colleagues are there to answer you. Thank you so much for joining us and look forward to seeing you again on Friday. Bye.